What is up? Welcome to Project Freelance. I'm your host, Kay Nagonio, and this is the podcast for you. It's the podcast for you. I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do. Are you a freelance graphic designer? Are you a musician? Are you a freelance photographer? Do you want to be a freelance photographer? Do you want to freelance? Do you want to work for yourself? Well, you should definitely listen to this podcast because this is going to give you some of the best tips for freelancing that you will find out there in the podcast sphere. This is one of the best podcasts out there, man. I mean, just look at that rating, that 5-star rating. Read some of those ratings. And hey, while you're reading some of those, do me a favor, leave a rating. Leave me a rating, leave me some feedback down in the below area section or on the side or at the top. I don't know what podcasting app you're using, but leave some feedback, leave a rating, let people know what you like about the podcast. Let me know what you like about the podcast. And you can do that at your own leisure, or you can do it right now. Do it right now. Just do it right now. Just do it real quick. It'll be easy, quick and easy. No big deal. 5 stars. Thank you. So this week on the podcast, I am joined by my longtime friend Kyle Hulett, and this guy has been in the music industry since he was in high school. He's been in bands that have been signed to Rise Records. This guy's played music with some amazing artists. He's done some absolutely amazing things, and he is now working in the digital marketing space. His job is to essentially get artists in front of audiences through digital advertising and marketing and promotions and outreach. So I wanted to have him on to talk about all things digital marketing, all things advertising, SEO, which both he and I are both working on and we're trying to get better at. So I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk to him about times that he's gone through struggles and been screwed over by people in the industry, because that's something that happens frequently, and I think that it's important that we talk about that kind of stuff and shed some light on it, you know? Not only that, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about promoting shows. You guys know that I did an episode with Sean Healy, and we talked about booking shows and being a show booker, and so I wanted to talk to Kyle a little bit more about, that side of the world, about promoting and booking shows. So we talk a little bit about that in this episode. And we definitely dive into, the music industry pretty deep. So if you guys are interested in being a part of the music industry, or if you need to learn more about advertising for your own projects, whether it be your band, your company, your brand, or your hot ass self on Instagram, if you need to learn how to digitally advertise and market your product, this episode is for you. Kyle, thank you so much for coming on. I wanted to let you guys know real quick, before we dive into this podcast, that I have a book for pre-order, a photography book, a coffee table book, my first coffee table photo book, and I'm so very excited about it. I just got the physical print, and I'm going to be filming an unboxing video for it, and I can't wait to show you guys this thing. So stay tuned to the Instagrams, all the social media that is down in the description. Wow, if you guys want to pre-order this book, head to justtheletterk.com/notracers. Pre-order this book. I am so very excited and so very proud of it. It's basically a culmination of 2 years of urban exploring and going into abandoned buildings put into a coffee table photo book. And there's also like diary entries in there. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Thank you so much for everyone that's pre-ordered so far. And I'm so grateful for you guys. But without further ado, let's jump into this podcast. Kyle, do me a favor. Tell the people who you are and what you're all about.
Oh, what's good? My name is Kyle Hulett. I work in music full time. I mostly do marketing, and digital strategy kind of tends to be my strong suit, but I've kind of had every single job you can have as far as working in music goes. I think it's important to kind of make sure to practice every skill set that you can get your hands on, just so that, in the event that you needed to hire somebody into your business, you kind of understood what that job entails and what you're paying them for, and if you really even need them. I've found a lot of work in just doing direct digital marketing and digital advertising. It seems to be in demand, just because I think the idea of audience management naturally translates into commerce. And if you can run that through a digital platform, you can create a metric with it. As far as marketing goes, it's kind of hard to prove value on things like editorial advertising or print advertising or billboards or because there's no way to really come back to somebody that may have shown consideration for that product. It's a lot easier to garner lead interest in someone that may just double tap your photo versus having to get somebody to mail in a subscription for your magazine, you know? So that's pretty much what I do. Yeah.
How did you get started? First of all, like how did you get started in the music industry, and what got you into the digital marketing and advertising space?
Getting into music, I started out when I was like 14 years old, went to my first club show, met a bunch of the bands, was totally starstruck. And, you know,
Who played? Who was at the show?
this is actually a crazy story, and I'm nervous to dive into it because it hands down changed my whole life, and it is for sure the reason that I got into music. I went to, I think it was a 2010 Glamour Kills Holiday Festival at the Chance in Poughkeepsie, New York. You know, that was where I moved when I was in like the 5th grade. I was living in Oregon. My family kind of just uprooted our whole life. And, you know, I got into going to concerts. And the first club show I ever went to was this festival. I didn't know what I was doing, really nervous, needed to make some friends. I had just gone through like a breakup. Like, I was basically just going because I had already bought the ticket. And so I kind of just hung out around a merch booth, and this guy and I just started getting to talking, and, you know, he invited me back out to go hang out with the rest of his friends. I was like, oh, you know, I don't think I can get back in if I leave. And he's like, no, you're okay. Like, I have this. And he shows me this little like laminated pass. I had no clue what it was. I didn't understand the concept. Like, I was just totally dumb to the whole industry, just did not get it. And so I went back to go hang out with them. And I met the rest of his band. It ended up being a band called Broken Side. And then he introduced me to a band called Breathe Carolina. We started pulling a bunch of hood rat shit. And then, you know, immediately broke down with these guys. I think it was like David from Every Avenue, like all these guys. And so the guys in Broken Side kind of walked me onto the stage, and like my whole school is there. So people just start screaming, and then it gets louder, and then it gets louder. And so me and Seven and Jay walk straight to the front of the stage, and people are just ripping my hair into this crowd, like pulling me. And I like fell in there. The security guard, Chuck, who became one of my best friends, like saved my life. And like, there was nothing that could stop that feeling. That was the most incredible rush I've ever had in my entire life. And it hands down started my career. From that moment on, I knew exactly what I was going to do, where my place was in the world. And I've been there ever since. You know, but from that point, I was like, you know, how can I support this? How can I get involved? You know, what can I do to immerse myself in this world? So I started showing up to more shows. And the very first thing that I did was apply for the Fearless Records street team. And it was a digital street team. It was on MySpace. You know, I racked up my top 8. I put them on there. I put all their bands on there. I think it was Kate Gastini was their head of marketing, or she was my street team manager. I don't remember who it was or what exactly she did, but she started sending me like posters, and she send me all these campaigns, and I'd get stickers from all the different bands. And my job was basically just to make it cool in my high school and in my middle school at the time. And so I just started like throwing the flyers out, throwing the posters out, taking the stickers, putting it on the back of everybody's planner. Anything I could do, you know, to make it kind of cloudy, like, oh, you got one of the stickers from Kyle, let me get one. How do I get that? That's exactly what I did. My whole job was just to work the audience of my high school. And, you know, from that point on, I got really into going to concerts. And it's like, well, I'd really love to get involved in my local concert venue. And, you know, there was a promoter there that just really didn't like me. We did not get along. I couldn't work at that venue. I was like actually getting a lot of heat from him. It was really frustrating. And from that, it kind of turned into this weird snowball. And I got a lot of heat from the people, you know, in the rest of the local scene. And, you know, I was kind of an unpopular kid. I did everything I could to support everybody around me. Like, it was weird because it was just this like, Kyle's a try hard. And it's like, yeah, I busted my ass. I loved working in music. I loved everybody around me. It's like, and sometimes it felt really embarrassing and it was really hard for me, but like, you know, I kept doing it. I kept doing it. I kept doing it. I kept working every single show I could. And then because I couldn't get into booking at this venue, I went and auditioned a whole bunch of different venues. I met with a whole bunch of different venue managers. They were just kind of these small, like little, it was a Polish club that I ended up settling with, but I went to VFWs and everything I could, found the best deal I could get, which I think was a $200 rental fee And then I went and found like all of my friends' bands that I could possibly get, and I booked my first show. And I think it ended up being with Set It Off and a band called Rocky Loves Emily. And I got their package somehow. So I got that to come in here. I paid the package like $200, and then I got like 4 local supports, which is the worst thing you can do, but it's the only thing I could do at the time. And I busted my ass, and I think I made a total of like $7.50 at the end of the night. But the only thing that mattered to me was I got to throw this concert. I got to book this show. I got to help my local community. And so I kept diving into it. I was like, how can I help more? I found out there was a radio station down the street, and I was like, oh, let me go see if there's anything I could do over there. I know every local band there is out here. And so I went there, and there was a show called The Local Lockdown. And I went and found out who ran the show. I think I requested him on MySpace, and then he gave me his email. And then I was like, hey, I live down the street. I'd love to just come, meet with you if I can. And just chat, see what I can do. This guy, Eric Ashmont, I think he went by Shamanti, was DJ. Really, really sweet guy. And he just started letting me hang out at the studio, and we would just bullshit about music. He was really, really sweet guy and really welcoming to me. And so he kind of gave me this job. He's like, hey, if you have anybody, let me know, because I don't know this crew. So I just started going around. It's like, hey, I'll get you on the late night show. We can premiere your song. Bring me your CD, like bring me your new demo, let me listen to it, let me bring it to him, let me see what I can do to get this on that show, and make it like your exclusive release for, the premiere of your song on the local radio station. People were geeking out, and all of a sudden it wasn't like, oh, Kyle sucks. It was like, Kyle's the guy. And it was about making myself an asset to everybody in any given room. And that's kind of, that premise for everything that has become working in music now. And how I mentioned it's like, oh, I've had pretty much every job you can have, because again, it is about making yourself an absolute and undeniable asset to people in any given room. And so audience management became kind of that crutch for me. Audience management means a stream of commerce. When you can create a dedicated fan base, you can create income, and you can grow that income, and you can scale that metric, and you can run. I favor running advertising now, just because you can't control the algorithm, but like you can scale that metric based on the advertising, because you can control your reach. I'm a really big fan of advertising lately, just because the algorithms are so shot. The concept is that you're building your business on somebody else's business. So they want you to cut them in. Of course they're going to cut your reach, because like, again, it's like, why would I build a mall and then let everybody sell their shit in it for free? It just doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? It's a terrible model. So of course, you have to learn how to play ball. And so, I got really into continuing to figure out how to grow audiences and manipulate them. And, if it came down to like I remember after the WRV stuff, the local radio station, I made a relationship over at Pure Volume with a band that was like, a really good local band, but like I really wanted to get them a premiere. So I did everything I possibly could to like email their contact info, email like, other friends. It's like, do you know somebody over here? And like people wouldn't even give it to me. And eventually I got an email back, and it was just hitting that contact section over and over and over again with different releases as much as I could, and being professional and courteous as much as I could, you know what I mean? But I never backed down on it. That was the whole idea. It's like I just wanted to be persistent until I finally got that one that they were really into. They finally came back. They're like, this is really good. I was like, thank you so much. What can we do? And they're like, well, we can throw it on a premiere. And I was like, well, how do I get the front page on it? And obviously they're like, we can do what we can. So I got like a little like byline premiere, and I was like, all right, that's fine. But I pushed it really hard. I got everyone to drive their traffic there, and they were really grateful for it. And I stayed in communication over the whole premiere, and, made sure I thanked them, and then went back and found another artist that I thought was even better. And I was like, hey, I have another one, actually. This is a really good artist. And they were actually quite a bit bigger. They were playing a bunch of regional dates. And the track started to chart. It went to number 5 on their playlist, and it stayed there for like on their charts. Playlist. That's the new thing now. Right?
Yeah.
Which are important. Now. That's what it was.
Put my shit on your playlist. Put it on your playlist.
That's exactly what it was. It's the same concept. It was that top, playlist that everyone was looking at, which today is New Music Friday. Pure Volume.
Or Discover Weekly. Yeah,
exactly. And so, I did everything I could to keep making myself an asset and bringing them things that almost made it feel like I was doing them a favor, and I didn't charge any of these artists. The idea was that I was putting myself through an internship. I was doing absolutely everything possible to build the skill myself. If no one was going to teach me, I was. And that was it. If I had to sit on YouTube, during my Photoshop class and teach myself graphic design, or during my study hall and go sit in my friend's AP graphic design class and learn from him, we'd switch classes and we did whatever it was possible, for me to learn how to make flyers for all my own shows. So I didn't have to pay anybody else because I couldn't afford it. I was 15 years old. You know what I mean? I had to learn how to do it. There were no other options. So that was basically the mentality the whole time. It's like, nobody's going to help me. I have to help me. What can I do to make myself an asset? And I put myself through full internships, like everything I could possibly do for any possible company, if it was other radio stations, if it was volunteering at local festivals, like it was all about acquiring the skill sets, busting my ass to make sure that I was one of the best people that knew how to do those things. And do I consider myself a photographer? Absolutely not. Could I shoot a set? 100%. But again, it's a skill set. It's something to run in addition, so that if I were, at this point now, I'm sitting here like auditioning, or not auditioning, but I say auditioning as in like reviewing submissions, etc. For whatever festival, whatever tour, whoever I'm working, whatever position. And I'm glad that I developed those skill sets because I have the ability to kind of gauge those things instead of, there are some outlets that will kind of just shoot anybody. The content's really not that captivating, but the idea is that you learn what makes people react and you find out what content makes people react and what people will sit with and what people will resonate with. And that's one of the, and I guess that's kind of opinion based, but it's important, to have like an understanding of quality, and what goes into certain things.
Yeah, 100%. I totally get that. Let's talk a little bit about like from say like a band's perspective. For a band that say has a new single that comes out, what steps should they be taking to promote that and to get that out there, and talk a little bit about the process and like how because you could just do like a Facebook ad, but like there are more like specific things, like there are more specific steps you need to take.
Right. So I think, that's a great question. I think one of the best things to start thinking about is, not only how you're impacting and getting in front of people, but how you're nurturing the relationship following that. A lot of artists will figure out every way possible to get the coolest look, from X magazine or X outlet. And then they don't do anything to follow it. What are you doing to nurture dedication and create that connection? So one of the things I do now, I kind of consider myself a product manager because my job is to take the recordings and package them and create a rollout plan and a marketing plan and break the record, over an 18-month cycle, over, 3 albums, 5 albums, whatever it is, you have to have a plan. So what I tell people to do now is create a content list. I don't give a shit how many good songs you have. It's all 280 characters at this point. How are you hitting that audience again and again and again with captivating content that is going to immerse them in your brand, in your identity? Are you creating an emotional impact? Are you making them laugh? Like, I think one of the first things to remember that when you're creating a content list like this is that no one gives a fuck about you. What are you doing to impact them? So you create all of this content, and you, if it's just like you going to your local coffee shop because you're really good at making latte art and your song is playing in the background and you teach people how to make lattes on camera. You know what I mean? It's like, it's educational. It's got your brand involved. Like, there's plenty of different pieces that you can do to make sure you're impacting them correctly. And then you take every piece of that content and you plot it into a timeline. I break it down over 18 months typically per cycle, and then I'll do 6-month chunks. So we'll have like a general, like the first 6 months, like will be super, super broken down week by week play of every single piece of content that we're going to roll out, what needs to happen to execute them, what needs to happen if we're going to secure a premiere. It'll be like, begin outreaching premiere partner, secure premiere partner, begin production on countdown graphics, roll out countdown graphics, release, announce partnership, roll out full Facebook clip, roll out full YouTube clip, and put every single step in there for 6 months straight. Everyone on your team needs to know exactly what they're supposed to be doing, when, where, why, and how. And that timeline is an absolute fail safe. If you are off track, you need to reposition. If you are ahead of the game, you're good to go. It's extremely important to have that timeline just so that everyone stays together on where you're supposed to be, because there are definitely down weeks, but if you miss a week and all of a sudden you're like 2 weeks backed up, you get overwhelmed, you start to lose track of things, it snowballs. Like, that's the last thing you want, because you weren't even kind of keeping track of what's coming next anyways. There's always a little bit of momentum this way. I think that's probably one of the best ways to roll out any sort of content. I think that that's an extremely valuable plan for newer artists as well.
Yeah. So I do think it's super fascinating that you put yourself through your own internship. So you don't have like formal training in any of the stuff that you...
I started touring and playing in bands like out of high school. I was in a band that signed to Rise Records, and then we signed to In Vogue, and then a bunch of the key songwriters signed to Hollywood Records, and we did a jingle project, and I was in it in high school. And so by that time, that I was finally like getting out of, like, that I was graduating, I was like, why would I ever go to college? Like, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. I'm already full time and I'm in high school. So, and at first it was a really scary path for me, but on the other hand, my parents didn't have a dime to spare. I didn't have the ability to apply for what's it called, scholarships, because my stepdad technically made way too much money, even though we were living paycheck to paycheck. Like, I had no hope of going to college. It just was not going to happen. I could not afford it. And so I was like, what, if it's not going to happen. And the other thing is that I couldn't get the internships I wanted to go do an internship at Spotify, which I would have died for, to go do an internship at Tumblr at the time, I would have died for, to do an internship, at any of these companies, or Warner or WeO, whatever it is. Like, I would have died for those, but I knew that I was not going to have the opportunity. So I needed to do everything I possibly could to figure out how to make myself an asset, and it's definitely a learning curve. And I think one of the bigger things that felt really good to me was that I was so open to learning and so open to absorbing information as much as I could. If it came down to learning how to book events, and then just begging a local promoter to be like, hey, how do you set up your offers? I just don't even understand how this works. All of a sudden, you get these little dumb tips that you may not understand at first, but one of my favorites is doing, I'm not even sure what it's totally called. Again, I haven't had any formal training, with the idea of setting up an offer where the artist is only going to make money at a certain dollar. So it's yes, we'll do a door split, in your favor, but that door split's only going to start at $750, paid. This way, it guarantees that they're going to do their best to drive people to the venue no matter what, and it's not just all on me. Then they get paid. That drives the show in an entirely different way. And it's just little things that you pick up that I had just caught in an email. I was like, oh, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Everything you can possibly absorb. Make yourself an absolute sponge. And again, an asset. What sort of information can you pick up to make yourself an asset?
Yeah, I think the definition of a freelancer should partially be someone that makes themselves an asset in every way, because it is, it's kind of the number one thing really when it comes to, doing anything, in life. Really make yourself an asset. People will like to be around you, and they will like to, use your services.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole idea. It's of even another business. My business is just providing services. Somebody, and as long as I have a certain flow of traffic of people interested in that, maybe it's just my Facebook page and it's me sharing some other significant work that I've done, and they're like, oh, Kyle's really good at that. How about we get him on our team? You know what I mean? Or if it's just like, setting up, a piece for your music and putting it in front of people that are interested in the same kind of music, and they're like, oh, this song sounds a lot like that other song I like. Maybe I should go download that. It's the same concept. You know what I mean? It's about making yourself compelling to someone.
For sure, absolutely. So, talk about SEO marketing. I know that's something that you love to do, and I know that's a huge part of what you do. Talk a little bit about it, what it is, and why it's so important.
So, search engine optimization is actually something I'm not very good at. It is one of the only things that I have not gotten a chance to really develop a skill set over. But what it is basically setting up your site ranking in search engines. So, say you're to go, I need my bathroom is flooding and I need a plumber right now. The first thing you're going to do is search local plumber, and the most relevant search results from your business, because you're running SEO targeting, are going to show up. The idea is that you want to get your ranking to the highest place in that search. That's what search engine optimization is. It's making yourself the most relevant to a potential buyer over certain search terms. That's SEO. That for artists, though, what that means is local concerts in a certain area, merchandise, new music videos in a certain genre, new records coming out, new vinyl, merch bundles. It could be YouTube searches, the same concept. So the other side of that is paid advertising. And that's kind of a display situation. The whole idea is it's going to pop up in your daily life, in your feed, alongside like your banners. Like if it's in the advertisements on the side, that's just you making sure that you're showing up in other relevant places that your buyers are at. If it's, potentially for say that like you are a travel agency and you want to sell more tickets to people that already have a condo in Hawaii. You're going to target people that regularly, or they already have a timeshare. You're going to buy leads, from those timeshare companies for people. The airplane company, the travel agency is going to buy the leads from the condo companies so that they can target them and say, hey, if you want to come out, we've got really cheap flights right now. And you just make sure that it's, you give the most relevant buyer a reason to spend. And to translate that as far as music goes, and this is what I do the most right now, is running things like tour advertising. My job right now is to take Polyphia's super fans and make sure that I give them a reason to buy their VIP upgrades and say, hey, we're coming to your city. We bottled our sauce in a hot sauce. Come drip with us. They eat that shit up so fast. And it's like, we've only got 10 bottles of our secret sauce for this day. Get them now. And we sell that shit out so fast because people love their identity. They love their brand. And we speak in a voice to them, in the way that they'll relate to us and that they love. So I give, again, it's about giving the right person who's ready to spend a reason to buy. And that's what paid advertising is. And that's what commerce funnels are. And that's what funnel marketing is. It's the idea that you're going to prospect an initial audience, garner consideration and nurture dedication. Those steps right there are the most important funnel steps for all of marketing in any room, anywhere in the world. The idea is, say you get, say you love Ariana Grande, and, an artist, Starbucks rolls out these Ariana Grande Cloud Macchiato. She's got a brand new song out to go with it. You decide to cover this song because it's similar to your style of music. You think it's something that people might take interest in, and then you just throw a photo up, in the background of you ripping this Cloud Macchiato with your cover playing on this, playing in the background. You say double tap if you love Ariana Grande's new Cloud Macchiato. The second that person double taps into that post, you now have the right to retarget them and serve them anything else from your page, from your account, from your Instagram. It could be every other post on your Instagram, and you can build an audience. And what you do is you start to create frequency with them. You create dedication by showing them multiple posts and nurturing, the person that showed consideration by double tapping that post with more information about you. You create an emotional invoke an emotion. It's just like explaining your story. It's saying that you have a tour date in their city coming up. It's saying that you have a pre-order bundle coming up if you want to grab, an Ariana Grande collab tee, whatever it is. You start to build frequency with them, and you bathe them in your content over and over and over again to nurture dedication. Once you start to build that frequency around like 50, 55, 60 posts, that person is spending money. They know what you are, they know what you're about, and all you have to do is continue to immerse them in your world. I think that has a lot, there's a lot you can say about identity and targeting at that rate. And obviously you need to be hitting people that are going to be likely to react. I think people will run advertising often just for engagements instead of for quality, buyers, and they'll run things where it's like, oh, I just want to get 100,000 views on this. So they'll run it worldwide and for just general fans of pop music. And sure, you'll get like 15,000 likes on the post, 100,000 views for like $100, and it looks really good. And then you start retargeting all those people. But the issue is that once you start retargeting them, they weren't that interested. So now you're just pissing people off. You know what I mean? You're starting to hit people that are kind of dead leads, that aren't looking to actually buy into your product. They were just kind of like, oh, that person was really attractive or something. And, you know what I mean? You have to make sure that you're hitting the right person again that's the most likely to buy. And that's the person you want to create the dedication with, and just bathe them and nurture them into your fandom. Make sure that they love you and that they're excited to be around you. Make sure you engage with them. Maybe even if they're just double tapping, run back and double tap on a couple of theirs. When you give that person a second, they will give you a lifetime. Every single time. Every single time. If it's you just walking up and down lines at Warped Tour or a festival, you give somebody a second, they will give you a lifetime. Every single time.
So true. Wow. And like, you're so right about, building that relationship. And that's something that I've personally been working on, with this podcast, my music, everything that I work on. I'm trying to build that relationship and build that community, and not only within the stuff I create, but within my freelancing world, like the clients I work with. Like, I'm trying to build like my local community right now. And so like building relationships is so vital to this stuff. And like, I can't emphasize that enough for the people listening to this. Like, you have to nurture those relationships and build them and keep them strong,
Yeah, your community is your flow of commerce. That is your flow of income. And if you cannot support a reliable flow of income, you're not going to find investment, and you're not going to find development. I think something, that's important to state as well, and the reason that this is so important is that people often don't understand why they don't get signed off the bat. There's a lot of weird like leveraging situations that may throw you in there earlier than other situations might. But I'm a big independent fan. One of my things is that build it first and they will come. The whole idea is that you need to understand what gas fuels your car. If you don't, who the hell is going to pay for the gas and why? If you're like, I've got a Maserati sports car, I think you got to put unleaded in it though. And some label comes up to you and it's like, bro, what? Like, they're never going to fund the gas. It's just not how it works. You need to figure out what fuels your car, where you're going, and how much you need to get there. That's how you build a relationship with a label, because the idea is that you need to have your business running first before they're going to inject capital to expedite that process. That is the whole purpose of the label. Your business has to be your business first and foremost, always. The entire point of the label is to come in and expedite the process because they know you've got it going.
Yeah, they're not there to do it for you, guys. Like they're there to guide you and help you along your way.
And to an extent, a lot of them are marketing agencies, mixed as a loan shark, and some of them have amazing departments. Fearless Records has some of my favorite identity and branding and marketing work in the business. I love everybody at that team. I love, all these other, these indie labels because they've done an incredible job taking much smaller markets and making profitable businesses out of that. And I think that there's a lot to say for that. But again, it's like if you wanted to start looking at things on a major way, it's like, again, you got to really have your business down first. Like the major labels are really the ones that are just the ones that are going to throw shit at the wall and see if it sticks. If you haven't already got it going, then there's no point,
100%. So talk to me about times that you've been screwed over by either people, clients, someone did a graphic design thing for, they didn't pay you, that kind of shit, because we all go through it.
I mean, you're talking to somebody who has been burned from the bottom and since the beginning of time. It's not a one-time thing, and I'm sure it's going to happen again. I have been burned over and over and over again. But I'm here because this is what I do and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I can't help it. It's what I've always done. I don't always mean to, but it's just always the way it's going to be. And I think that some people just have to accept themselves for who they are and continue to reposition yourself for the strongest direction moving forward. Just to put that out there first, because again, like it gets fucking dark. It gets very scary. It gets hard to live with yourself after certain situations. It is really, really hard. And it's a very scary industry. It's a passion-based industry. Everybody's in it for themselves. And me being someone who's behind the scenes in a thankless job is constantly just cut. And it's very frustrating. It's very scary, especially when I consider myself an artist to an extent as well. My job is to paint audiences. What I do is I can see raw and undeniable talent in places that no one else can see so early on that my job is just to put it in front of others. That is a quality that I believe is absolutely more rare than any other artist out there in the world. The A&Rs of this world, the marketers of this world are the Cupids. Our jobs are to connect people for outstanding, long-standing relationships. And it's something that's thankless. It's something that's behind the scenes, and it's something that people are very passionate about themselves over. So again, it's not for everyone, but for the people that can't help it, it's what you're going to do forever. You know what I mean? You have to get good at, rolling with the punches, because life is a bumpy road, and sometimes you just have to consider the fact that maybe you have the best shocks to be rolling over it with, like maybe you were built for this more than you think you were, because somehow I'm still fucking here. I don't understand it. Like I have driven into ditches. I have been driven off the road. I have been blackmailed. I have been burned. Awful. It's so awful. And people are so mean. But again, I do this because this is what I was born to do. This is what I'll always do for the rest of my life. Like that's just it. I cannot help but seek raw and undeniable talent and put it in front of people. That's just it, And so, to speak to some situations, even at a smaller level, just being like a local promoter, I was like, I don't want to name any names, but like I had like really early on, like getting blackballed hard. I started booking all these shows. This other local promoter was a really big shot promoter running this huge contest that every single band entered. And I was just out here trying to book a few shows and make some bands some extra money. I had started cutting a ticket deal because the thing to do in our town was to sell advance tickets and pre-sales. So my deal was that, hey, I'll give you 25 tickets. I need you to return 15 of them. The other 10 are yours to keep. They're $10 a pop. The other promoter's deal was, I'll give you 50 tickets. You need to sell at least 50 tickets and I'll give you $2 a pop or you don't play.
Wow.
Naturally, my deal is a lot more enticing.
Yeah.
The idea was that I wanted people to walk out with money in their pocket, playing a smaller show, and give them the opportunity to make even more money. It's like, bro, like if you can sell half of what you're selling for him, you're going to walk out with twice the money.
That's
This
crazy.
man went to my sound guy, he went to the bar I was promoting through, he went to all the bands I was booking, and told absolutely every single one of them, if you play for Kyle, you will not play for me.
Wow.
It was devastating, and it was so hard to deal with because I had people just not showing up to shows, not playing their sets, getting emails in the middle of the night, like getting angry phone calls. Like it was awful, and it was so hard. And you know what? 2 years ago, 2017, this very promoter walked right up to me on stage at Warped Tour and gave me a big fat hug and sat there and told me that his life, he was just a monster. He was angry. He was upset. Like he went, like, I think one of his parents like ended up passing away. Like it was just a very, very dangerous, dark time for him. And he apologized for absolutely every bit of it. He's like, I was an awful person and I want to apologize for that. And it came full circle. And you know what? Every single one of those situations that I've gone through, 10, this is 10 years later now speaking, have all come full circle because I have not stopped busting my ass and putting myself in positions to take care of absolutely everyone around me without asking for a dollar. The situations that I'm in now, working full time, and I've been working strictly based on recommendation for several years now, which has been incredible. But like, you take care of the people around you and you show genuine intent for this industry, it will come back around. You stick around, it'll be here for you.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can stick it out through the bullshit, this thing will have your back for sure.
Absolutely. And I think that's just karma. And that's the way, karma back builds. And that's been a really big mentality for me lately. It's, when things get so rough, sometimes it's building up to give you something super hard because life is built on ups and downs, yin and yang, push and pull, the laws of physics. What goes up must come down, and vice versa. So, when these awful things kind of happen to you, it's back building, and something even better is bound to be coming right at you. And if you keep that mentality, it'll hit you and you'll sit there and you'll cry and you'll be like, I knew it. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, it happens every single time. And it's been an incredibly emotional roller coaster. But like, again, if you serve your entire life with genuine well intent, it will always come back around.
I think that we live very similar, like we're on the same wavelegth is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
You've always been like that. And that was one of the bigger reasons I've always loved watching you grow. I watched you before you knew anything about me. I was very familiar with everything that you were doing. I think that, again, as somebody who has spent their life watching people for certain qualities, there are some people that just stick around and that will always be here, and you just can't, and you're one of those people is what I'm saying. Like I have always noticed that. I've always picked up on you, and I'm excited to see you continue on and continue to grow as a professional and drive your life in whatever direction you want to. I think that I love your content and I love how hard you hustle. And I think that speaks for itself. People go to dumb things, like situations happen, but like the ones who stick it out, again, it comes full circle every time.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm definitely like starting to notice a lot of that stuff the longer I spend, in Los Angeles and the more time I spend creating things. I mean, for example, like I did a job for Alternative Press in 2017 for a charity event. And this year, like 2 weeks ago, I just filmed that charity event for the charity, So I mean, if you take care of those relationships, if you do the work, it will come back for sure.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I've had some crazy burned experiences, outlets. I recently got burned for a band that asked me to come on and product manage their record, and they're one of my favorite boys. Like, I love all these boys. I was really excited, really honored to be brought onto it. You know, it's not even like the biggest project in the world, but I just loved these kids. I was really excited for it. You know, I met up with their manager. They've got this big shop manager, and like, you know, their day-to-day is a really, really sweet guy as well. And so they're like, hey, you know, our label is just kind of, you know, they dropped the ball on the last record. We need somebody to run point on it, somebody that understands marketing strategy, rollout. I built a whole rollout plan. I started putting all the, you know, the timeline together. And they're like, you know, we don't want to go through our label's publicist because, you know, the band's already been in the studio for the last month and they haven't moved an inch. There's been no outreach. There's like nothing. The band was here for a month in LA and not one piece of outreach went out. Nothing. I was shocked. I was floored. And I was like, you know, maybe they've got a plan. We should definitely get on the phone and discuss something. Manager was like, no, there's not. They don't. I need you. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, let me just start shooting some outreach on. Let me get a couple calls going. I know the head of marketing and both the outlets I want to work with right now, and get, you know, offer this out to them, see what they've got going on. Be like, hey, we want to get you involved, get behind this record really, really early on. You know, I've got them in the studio right now. I've got this photographer here with them as well. I've got a bunch of shots. Here's some content. Here's a studio diary. Like, I knew exactly what I needed from them while they were in there, got it done, and then started to deliver it and said, hey, you know, here's our timeline. Here's a few other pieces that we're going to start doing. What do you guys want to take? One of the outlets was stoked about it, got on the call, loved them to death, really took care of me. We've had our ups and downs, but that's fine. The other outlet, outlet came back and were like, hey, the band has a UK publicist, only work through that. I was like, that's weird. I'm pretty sure they only have a retainer publicist attached to their international subsidiary, whose only job is to take intake, not do outreach. I was like, okay, hey, you know, I'm not a publicist. So I responded like, hey, I'm not a publicist. I'm here, you know, I'm here as a product manager overseeing the record. You know, I just want to plan some things out. Obviously, we can work through whoever you guys want. I just want to see what you'll be interested in working with. You know, plus manager, you know, give the green light. I got both of them on copy. Everybody gave the green light. The editor, whatever she wants to call herself, social media manager, I don't know, comes back and is like, I'm sorry, I must have misspoke. I will not be working with you. We will only work with CC UK publicist. All of a sudden, I get a call from the manager who just got a call from the label. The label's like, bro, what the fuck are you trying to do? Are you trying to leave us? Like, if you want to just fucking leave us now. Like, what is the deal?
Oh, fuck, dude. And you didn't even do anything wrong. You were just doing your job.
He told me to pull the trigger. And so they go back to the U.S. publicity company. Do you know this guy? I know everybody at their U.S. publicity company, but they're like, what's going on? We don't want the heat from this. Of course, I love them to death. Like, I get it. Label's freaking the fuck out. Guy calls me. He's like, yeah, I think we're just going to chill out and let it all, you know, roll down. You know, I'll come back to you tomorrow and see what happens. The entire team ghosts me. I hear nothing. I've got projects in the works. Then have to cancel the takeover with the other outlet from the studio the next day to pretend like it didn't already get set up. Put them back in an email with the other publicist. Again, this is a retainer publicity account. For anybody not familiar, the idea of retainer is to take on intake. They are paid a flat rate, retainer rate from the label to handle intake for all of the artists on the label. Yeah, they work on development outreach strategy, but they're not working for the band specifically. Most management teams will pull on several different publicity companies on top of the label to run point on the release on top of their product manager. It is an extremely standard process. This was the most green response, and green meaning immature and young. Somebody
green,
that
yeah. Someone who's
this
green,
is the most green response that I have ever heard in my entire life. I was in shock. And it was just the worst situation because what am I supposed to do? Yell at the band? Like, they're getting heat now, and I'm just sitting here embarrassed. I now have lost this relationship with this major, you know, semi-major mid to low tier outlet that, I've already done tons of other work with. Like, I was just in shock. Could not believe that now the management has thrown me under the bus. The label has thrown me under the bus. My friends at the other publicity company have thrown me under the bus because everybody's stressing the fuck out over not understanding how to handle publicity outreach from a product manager. I was in shock.
And they need someone to blame, and you're the easy. Obviously, it's your fault, Kyle. Obviously,
it's just so sad because I just don't understand. Like, the whole idea of bringing on an independent product manager like that is for extra help to run point on the release. It's an independent minor label. You know what I mean? This is like I bet you they probably don't even have a product manager at their team. The whole idea was that I was just building a timeline. I wanted to dish it out to their teams, but they're like, no, they don't do outreach. I was like, okay, cool. I'll just set it up and get all of the content taken care of and partnered up. Won't be a problem. This is what I do. I build out the entire timeline and I find out who wants to take what. Shocked, absolutely shocked. And it's funny because it's this same social person or whoever actually just got in a lot of beef with another photographer just because they're so rude. And what makes me, and their responses are so rude. And what really bothers me is, I think it's just important to note that somebody today, especially in this industry, the people that stick around and bust their asses are always going to be here. This is a very, very, very small community. You have to remember that the first rule of music and entertainment is that absolutely everybody knows everyone. What you say to one person will travel to everyone behind them. You have to live at that mentality. I can't, like, even in this interview right now or this podcast right now, it's like the things that you say, will affect you and affect everybody around us, and there's a reason why we're careful about name dropping. We're careful about it. And it's not always just so much about oh, I don't want to name drop so I don't seem cool. It's just like, oh, the person next to me might actually know that person. It's Los Angeles.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody listening to this might know whoever is on this label or is
going to know the story. Exactly.
Yeah. And somebody told me recently, you don't want strangers hating you.
Yeah, and I think that that's absolutely true too. And I think one of the issues, with the
but shit, so many strangers hate me, dude. Can I just say?
I mean, me too. And that happens all the time, and it happens often with people who don't understand the other person in the situation, or may not have taken a second to get to know them. And unless they've directly affected someone negatively, it's kind of a tough battle to sit there and talk shit about people. You know what I mean? And that's literally it. But I think,
and it takes so much energy.
Yeah, it takes so much energy, and I think that there are people that are always going to be negative like that. But I think that, again, if you remember that you have the best shocks, there are always going to be potholes, and you can roll right over that and you keep going. That's the only mentality you need to live, because there are people that are always at different levels, and there are people that are always going to have different understandings of certain things. My full philosophy is good people, great music. Be a well-intended, genuine individual with everything that you do. It's even this band that I was just talking about, again, I love them to death. We didn't, and I get paid full time from every other artist that I work with. They absolutely could not afford what I was being hired to work for. But I love these boys, and all I want to do is take care of them. And all I wanted to do is put in front of them was opportunity to change their life. And it may not have worked in that situation, but they know that. You know how many people they've talked to about me, because that's my entire mentality. You know how many people that I've made relationships with, through Sad Boy Crew or through Warped Tour, just because I'm literally out there just trying to take care of people.
Yo, shout out Sad Boy, though.
Love Sad Boy. Love Christian. Can't wait. Yeah, I think they're going to Atlantic City this year.
So sick. Good for them, man. I'm so proud of that fool. Oh,
yeah, he did really, really great. He did incredible last year. He didn't get to do the run last year because he was kind of, prioritizing a job. But like, there's absolutely nobody that does not have his back because he has everyone else's.
Of course. And he did this shit from zero.
From
He
zero.
busted his ass from zero.
He hopped on the tour, and I think in 2016 with a box of just shirts that were just his, and then threw all his friends in them, threw all of his friends in them, and then just ran around taking as many photos as he could. Like, the brand popped off, and it was just because he was a really great guy to be around, had a genuine energy, and took care of people,
And people liked the shit he was making,
Yeah, and they related, absolutely.
Yeah, they loved it. They loved it. All the emo kids.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, after like 2 or 3 years, they became the glamour kills of Warped Tour. Like, the very
100%.
last year, Steph put the XX teardrop T-shirt on the main blow-up schedules, on all the VIP limits, on all the water bottles. If you hadn't run into on the main website, the very first thing you saw was a crowd surfer wearing a Sad Boy Crew T-shirt. Like, and it was incredible because, again, he was so genuine, and it's such a relatable brand to that community. It worked perfectly. And, he matured, and he continued to grow, and he did everything he could to make himself an asset.
I got to get him on this podcast to talk about
100%.
100%. I can't even believe it hasn't happened yet. We're like 60-something episodes in. I haven't had Christian Sad Boy on here.
Yeah, and he loves the stuff, too.
Yeah, definitely. So let me ask you the most important question of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
That's a pretty good one.
Hey, thanks.
I think the shocks thing. I think the fact that I think it took a while for me to accept that this is what I was going to do. I think that I've recently related this to a lot of artists getting face tattoos, but it's about the commitment to your own life. Once I settled and said there's going to be no other option, it is incredible what you can achieve. There's nothing, and that could be the same concept as like, okay, I don't have enough money to make rent this month. Somehow I'll pull $1,800 out of my ass in 12 hours, not from borrowing it from people, but from busting my ass and pulling the fucking money because I had no other option. It is incredible what you can achieve when you give yourself absolutely no other option. And when that commitment is your life is going to be incredible.
There is no plan B, baby.
There is no plan B, baby.
Only plan A.
Damn straight. I love that.
So true. I heard that from a motivational speaker I was working for. I was editing his videos, and he was like, there is no plan B, only a plan A. I was like, damn, this fool knows what's up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, so Chasing Satellites, my music project, just came out with an acoustic song, which is like a first for me. I don't sing, I don't consider myself much of a singer.
I mean, you've always been a vocalist.
Exactly, but I scream mostly. That's my thing, So wanted to give acoustic thing a go. So where would I go if I wanted to approach you as like a potential client? Like talk about like your price tiers, things like that for not only just myself, but for people listening to this. Like if they want to approach you and kind of get involved with you, like what are the things they need to know and what do they need to prepare?
Sure. I don't, and this is, I think probably every other freelancer on here is going to hate me for saying this. I don't keep a website. My work is strictly referral based. It is all based on how well I did for the other people in certain teams who went, I have someone else for you. And I think that speaks volumes. For people that are looking to hire me, there are a lot of different jobs I hold and a lot of different things that I can help with. Lately, it's been a lot of marketing, a lot of advertising and digital strategy or product management. I'm also a full-time, or I guess it's part-time. It's definitely a full-time salary. I'm also a full-time talent buyer at the Sayers Club in Hollywood, just so I could have something else in my pocket for situations like that. If someone were to want to come and work on something like advertising, what I typically charge is a commission based on your spend plus a commission on the return for commerce-driven campaigns, things like tour advertising or selling your pre-order bundles or your merchandise or ticket sales, whatever it is. But for things like general outreach, the whole thing is that I want to make sure that it makes sense for you to spend more money so that I make more money. It has to, like, I have to be able to prove the commerce and be able to prove the return. And I think that that's what a true marketer does. Marketing is a commerce-driven initiative. It has to be. So what I do is I do 20% on your 20% upfront commission on your spend. I recommend that artists at a bottom level are spending $500 a month per platform, and whatever your goal is. That I would say, like, per release, even, like, say you just want to do $500 to drive on Facebook, $500 to drive on Instagram. And then honestly, if you can budget, I would do $1,000 on YouTube, just because YouTube is cloudy and people always use that as like a point of, is this real or not?
Yeah.
And run the advertising. Everyone can tell that it's fake. It's not about the clout anymore. It's about the audience engagement, because
It's about authenticity.
Well, the authenticity, sure, but it's about having some, if you can't create commerce, you're not going to get signed. And if you faked all your numbers, there's no money coming in. No one's going to give you money. Like, it doesn't work like that. So with the advertising, the thing is, like I think I said in the beginning, like, you're building your business on top of somebody else's business. They want you to cut them in. Facebook and Instagram give you all of the tools to do that, and you just have to learn to play by their rules. They have free courses, they have free certifications, AdWords as well, so you can run the YouTube. They want you good at spending money on their platform, and they'll give you all of those tools. You just have to take a little bit of time to learn. That's really it. So again, I try to tell people 20% on your initial spend budget. So, like, this would be like if you were to spend $1,000 on doing like YouTube, like, outreach and just video views, I would take 20% would be $200 on top of it, because I need you to spend $1,000. And then I do a setup fee for any sort of campaigns that render less than a $2,000 commission. So any campaign build that I do, just because some of them can take like fucking days, like, I'll do like $100 commission or $100 service fee just as like a setup. And it's like, okay, this is my build time. And then now I'm going to spend the rest of the month tinkering and split testing creatives and audiences, and hopefully trying to garner return. One of the projects I'm doing right now is for a Head Automatica vinyl re-release. And again, it's like I took a commission based off what he was going to spend to get to a certain number, but I'm also taking money on the back end, and that's where my real income comes in. That's where things like VIP advertising. So like I probably shouldn't name any of the bands, but I had like a big metal band. I just did $156,000 in VIP sales.
That's amazing. Yeah, definitely don't say the band name. It's irrelevant, but that's fucking amazing.
But I've done $490,000 in VIP sales since October.
And you make commission off of that?
Typically, it's what I was supposed to do. I pulled the intern thing first because I was still trying to figure out how to run the conversion tracking.
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
one of the issues with tour advertising is that they run a lot of like third-party websites, or like Shopify. Like, Shopify is actually pretty good, but they'll have like shred servers that just take forever to load up. If it's a Squarespace or something, you get a ton of bounce back. There's no way to run the conversion tracking. Sometimes with like VIP companies, they'll have like a huge database of artists, and to properly place your conversion tracking, which is basically like whenever somebody clicks on a certain link for that VIP, like it could be a certain date. So you want to retarget everybody in that city that clicked on that certain date. You can't do any of that because it's a breach of security. When you run the pixel over their main website, which is what you have to do, you now have access to every other person's audiences. You can't offer that out. So I've actually been trying to get people, I've been trying to build more custom sites and get tours to do the custom sites. But because I couldn't prove my return, I just didn't feel right asking for a total of 7% of all of their VIP sales, because I mean, I'll have done all of it.
Bro.
I know, it's a lot of money, and
I get it.
and that's really and recently I figured out how to do it, so it's been really, really good, and it's been starting to pick up, and it's become a real business for me, and it's become an incredible endeavor, and it's something that I can now go to, somebody like Live Nation and say, hey, this is my business. This is where we're making a lot of money. If you can give me an advance on this and help my biz dev, I'll cut you in here and let's expedite it. Let's fucking go.
Only if they have really good security those nights, though, because Live Nation security can be a little bit questionable at times.
Well, Live Nation's great. I don't go to any of the shows. It's just about the access to their tracking and their website tracking.
Totally.
Yeah. Their Live Nation and security is no joke. It's honestly impressive.
No joke. It's impressive.
Yeah,
but you either get them on a good night or a really bad night.
Yeah, Palladium got me hard once. I remember I had VIP, I don't remember, guest list or whatever it was, like on top of the world tickets to go see something. I think it was a rave or something at the Palladium, and we were there with the agent for the show and the promoter, and Live Nation was no bullshit with us. We're like, oh hey, we're so and so, blah blah, and the lady looks us dead in the face because we were kind of just walking about. She's like, I don't give a fuck who you are. Right there. Just pointed us in the direction. We're impressive. Okay, that's fine.
All right. Okay.
I was it's such
yes,
shock.
ma'am.
I was I love that. Okay. Honestly, I can't fight that.
Yeah, right? And you're not going to.
Yeah, nope, not at all. We're okay, that's fine. Sure.
All right, man. Give the audience any final advice, and if you want to plug some social media, go for it.
Sure. Here, my final words are: there are some people that will spend their entire life becoming, and then there are some people that just are and always will be. Just be. My social medias are Kyle Hulett. My Instagram's private. You can request it. And my Twitter is Kyle Hulett with a V instead of a U because some assholes took it when I switched it one day. Sucks.
And it's a very popular thing to do. I like it.
Yeah. If you want to look up any of the stuff, I mean, it's technically 27 Social, but again, I really don't use any of the websites. It's really just my shell, and I bring on a whole bunch of extra work, and I hire out all my other freelance social media people if I need extra help. The email is Kyle, Kyle, at 27social.la.
Say that one more time. There's a siren or something.
Oh, geez. It's Kyle at 27social.la, and it's going to be 27social.la.
Awesome. Perfect. All
Cool.
right, dude.
Hey, Kay, thank you so much for having me on here. I really appreciate it. I love these podcasts, and I think you're doing a great job.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Project Freelance with Kyle Hulett. I love this guy. I've known him for years. We may not talk as much as we would probably hope that we could talk, but we get busy, and that's how it is out here in LA. We're all trying to hustle. We're all grinding out here, and we're all working 100% of the time, all the time. So, Kyle, thank you for taking a little bit of your time to chat with me. We actually recorded this episode at 10:30 at night because this is the most convenient time for both of us. So if that shows you anything, it's that we are really hustling. Kyle's been working all day and he did this podcast. I worked an 8-9 hour day today, and then I'm doing this podcast, and I'm also currently exporting a TV show segment that I edited for a boat racing show that I am helping kind of create. I'm helping film this show called Crackerbox TV. If you guys want to watch it, it's available. Should be on Amazon soon, actually. If you're into motorsports, things like that. I've been helping this guy Mark out for a couple years, doing several freelance things with him. And like I was talking about earlier, in sharing things with your community and building a community around yourself. Mark is definitely one of the guys that I have built community with, and we are now filming a TV show together, and it's super fucking cool to be a part of that. And I literally just sent him the final edit for the segment I just edited for the TV show. So I'm now officially a TV show editor, which is super cool. But yeah, So if you guys want to check out Crackerbox TV, check it out. It's going to be on Amazon. It's on Motorsports TV. I'll put some links down below if you guys want to check it out in your free time. Super fun. The voiceover is amazing. I love the guy that narrates the thing. Like, I think he has the perfect voice for it. And I love filming motorsports, man. It's one of my favorite things to film. But other than that, thank you guys for tuning in to season 5 of Project Freelance. This is the 5th season. I want to know, where do you listen to this to? Let me know on Twitter or Instagram at Project Freelance. I want to know if you listen to us on Spotify, on Anchor, on Apple Podcasts. Where do you listen to the podcast? Let me know. And let me know who you would want to be on an episode. And if you would like to support me, you can do so by, you can either, if you want to support the Patreon, there's a Patreon. You can get photo prints, things over there. Or you can just pick up a photo print, patreon.com/justtheletterk. Or you can head to justtheletterk.com and you can browse around on my website, go to the shop. You can actually pre-order the No Tracers Urban Exploration Diary photo book. I just finished a photography book. It's called No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary. It is now available for pre-order up on justtheletterk.com/no tracers. Go pre-order that book. Thank you guys so very much for listening. I will talk to you next Monday morning on the podcast. This is Project Freelance. I'm your host, Kay Anagonio. I will talk to you guys next week with another guest. Stay strong, keep enduring, and go create something.